All right. Hey, thanks for coming. We have 7 points that are on the agenda for today. At a very high level, we're going to thank Galen for his time. We're going to just refresh you on who the teams are that are supporting the Phil Plus program and some ways that you could reach out. Then we're going to talk about some new proposals that came through. So the proposal 435 and 434, which is an automated MetaAllocator pathway and an on-ramp meta pathway. What does that mean? Who should apply? We'll kind of cover that in detail. And we'll spend some time checking in on the new applications that have been coming through for round 6, giving you an update, as well as a DataCap refresh. There was an issue filed from Fort Neo, part of Coin Summer. It was in the agenda here under 427. So we have a slide and we'll talk about that having to do with retrieval. How does retrieval look like in 2025? What's working, what's not, and how can we all keep each other updated? So with that, very quick, if you have an item for the agenda, please link it. Love to see it. I'll make this issue before the call about a week or so out. Anything you want to see, just link it in there and I'll make sure that it gets baked in. Today's the 2nd. Our next call will be on the 16th of September. And in the links is the calendar invite if you want to follow along and have this pop up on yours. Checking in on metrics, we had 54 petabytes onboarded in the last 2 weeks, and 28 new clients. We're still in the process of doing all the onboarding for the new pathways, so we'll be updating this list shortly with the total number of manual allocators, market-based, but it's a big number, so big community, lots of activity. We thank you for your time. All right. Hey, program updates. Number one is Galen. Galen was a part of the Phil Plus program for almost 4 years. Galen's role was to serve as a steward between the tooling teams, between the community, between members of the governance that are here to help you. And Galen is moving on to new adventures. So just wanted to take a minute to thank him for his time, wish him great success in whatever he does next. But let you know if you send a message to Galen, either in GitHub or Slack, email, route so it comes to me and I'll help back you up. That stuff. I will still be friendly, Kevin, on this call for whatever you need. But just wanted to check in and say thank you. You might be wondering, like, well, where should I send things if I have a question? So if Galen was your point of contact, please, again, just let me know and I'll route you to where it needs to go. But if you're curious about like, what's the status of like your DataCap deals, still the same website, fiddlebuiltustheallocator.tech, works great. Feel free to take a look. If you're looking about open proposals and what's going on in the community, that's where our GitHub governance repo is. If you want to get in touch, we have a dedicated Slack channel for that. We also have a pathway changes in the registry. So if you want to change your bookkeeping, your GitHub, your Slack, you could do that in the registry. If there's a tooling problem where something's not working, again, we have the great team at FIDL who's designing these systems. You could reach out on their board for anything having to do with tooling. Or if you want to watch these recordings, we have a detailed arsenal on YouTube, which works great. From a standpoint of who's here to help you. So on the foundation side, which I'm a part of, you might have seen Michael on the last call. Michael will be helping out from like the governance standpoint. He runs overall governance for the whole foundation, and he's a wealth of knowledge for making sure that we're including community input and making sure that everyone's voice is heard. Think about me as like just your friendly neighborhood helper. If you have a problem, you don't know where to go, I'm happy to help run that down. I'm also involved in making sure that the proposals are going out, that everything is linked and organized and made available, and helping triage issues that come through. Amin, who you've seen on past calls, is responsible for compliance. So he's looking at DataCap refresh, he's looking at applications, and making sure that what is being said is actually being done. Danny serves as our advisor, just a wise, knowledgeable person inside the space. He's put himself now. And so he steps in a lot for like some of the conversations that might be past us. So we have somebody who's involved in the ecosystem that can really speak to how it all plays out. And then Megan is at the foundation and kind of oversees all of our work on this. On the FIDL standpoint, I've linked their website there, and they're building the tooling and the systems and really thinking about how we can design this process to grow, not just function, but to grow and be successful. So you might see them in Slack, you might see them in GitHub. Damien will be very present on like posting weekly updates on tooling and updates as they go through. John and Will are the engineering wizards. So if you see a comment in some of the channels, they kind of step in and run it. And MPG leads the program from their standpoint. So you might see her active in Slack with questions or comments or really kind of jumping in. So between these two organizations, we're here to back you up and get you what you need. If you have any questions on these, please list it in chat. We'll kind of go in there. All right. Hey, proposals. We have 3. So the first one we talked about on the last call, I just wanted to give this another bump, is that we have a proposal for the number of copies of open public data sets to 8. So nothing earth-shattering. What we're seeing is if we're incentivizing the network to grow, having 35 copies of a weather data set in one region probably isn't the smartest way to allocate the resources. So again, we have this proposal. If you have strong thoughts on it, please come to issue 431. Leave us your thoughts. We can talk about this and go forward. A new proposal that was just initiated on Friday was number 435, AMA, which is short for the Automated MetaAllocator Pathway. And this is great. So we've set these MetaAllocator pathways up for manual so far and for the experimental. And what this is going to allow us to do is essentially allocate DataCap from the root key holder to this pathway, which can then allocate that DataCap back out to any automated pathways serving as allocators. If you're an automated pathway, you've had to wait a little bit longer for your diligence DataCap refresh request because we've always had to go back to the root key holder. With this step, once the root key holder allocates a larger set of DataCap, that can then be distributed, resulting in faster times and going forward on that. Strong thoughts on this, please take a look. ND Labs, you're asking for the slides on this one. I put this, but it was probably before you joined the call. So I'm just going to multitask and drop that in there for you. There you go, ND Labs. But again, check this out. If you have strong thoughts or convictions, issue 435, we're looking for it. But this should be a great way to kind of get DataCap out there faster. The second proposal that you might have seen come through is for the ORMA. And this is the on-ramps MetaAllocator, really cool. And this is a special pathway for organizations that are running paid services like hosting real client data and processing on-chain payments. This should be like very select few organizations that are really applying for this. You have to have a registered business. They're enabling this. It can't be a storage provider. It can't be a secondary tooling. This is like somebody who is really making a business model that's going to have large amounts of DataCap that want to go through and take a look. So Galen first kicked this issue off in issue 384 back in June. I have it linked here. And then recently what we've done is we've updated a lot of the rules and the requirements. As you can imagine, having this large amount of DataCap go, there's a lot of requirements that go into this. So we wanted to shop this, make sure that the community had a chance to kind of take a look and agreed or had any strong thoughts that could be incorporated. So if you were considering or if you've been thinking about this, again, we're looking for a very small group that would be looking. Check out issue 434. If you have any questions, please let us know. But again, this is designed to get large amounts of DataCap quickly to organizations that are building their business models around data onboarding. All right, hey, if you applied to be an allocator, I think Hume, some of you guys on the call, good news, good news. We plowed through, I think, the 26 applications that were outstanding for various reasons. There's only just a handful that are left. Those handful that are left, check your DMs. I have a question for you. Everybody else, you're going to see that you're an AMA or MDMA approval. What that means is that we're in the process of onboarding those ledgers and addresses and getting you all set up with your registry. So feel free to check this dashboard. Once you see you're approved, you should be going, and you can check. If you have any questions, please let us know. Everyone on this list, you've also been added to the private Slack channel allocator. Goal that channel with any technical questions you may have. So that'd be a great place. Phil plus allocators will get you set up. Any questions, please let us know. But hey, just a quick check-in on this. Damien posted this in Slack a couple weeks ago. I liked it so much that I copied it and I wanted to put it here in this slide deck for everyone to see. If you're a new allocator, it behooves you to really take a look. Making sure that you have a README file set up, that you're not making more replicas than 8, that you're sticking with your tranche schedule, that there's 2 geographic regions. These are what we kind of consider the basics. So again, the refreshes will be a little bit stricter in this round, so be very mindful of how you're coming and making sure that you're taking a look. All right, hey, DataCap refresh. What's pretty cool is now you're going to start to see those DataCap refresh go out even faster. What's nice about having all of these MetaAllocator pathways set up is that we're removing some of the blocks that were historically slowing us down in 2025. And a lot of that block was constantly waiting for that root key holder to look. So now with these new dedicated MetaAllocator pathways, once you turn this application in, it goes straight to the community where any member of the community can comment on it. If there's no community action, we have people like Watchdog that will leave their comments on calling out how the data goes down. And then a Min from Filecoin Foundation takes it, reviews it, and leaves a comment. So when you see that, you'll start to see that DataCap move through. We were shooting for that goal of 2 weeks. I think we're going to start blowing that 2 week goal out of the water. So please hold us accountable. Let us know if this gets faster and if this works for you. We're definitely putting some time into it for you. And again, on the topic of DataCap refresh, what we found over the last year was that nearly 80% of our time was going to a couple of organizations that were constantly either changing the POCs or changing bookkeepings or changing how their accounts or not having retrieval for a myriad of reasons. So what we're saying is with 100 pathways that are in the program, we're going to be a lot more strict. So if you are not meeting the thresholds that you set in your application, if it's egregious, we will just remove the pathway and encourage you to send clients to a different pathway that operates. So please take the time when you're doing these distributions to make sure you're checking in with your clients as they receive the data cap. Don't wait 3 months, 6 months, and then identify that the data cap was not used correctly. As an allocator, it should be on you to make sure that that data cap is being distributed and used accurately. All right. And the last issue that we have is the issue that was filed about IPNI and Spark retrieval law by Fort Neo and Coin Summer. But with this, I'm going to say a quick thank you. I appreciate your time. Danny, you co-host. So you should have these slides. I'm going to drop and run in. Is there anything you need from me before I go, friend?
No, except I hope you can deal with what you're dealing with quickly and healthily. Hold on, let me share my version of the slides. So, hold on. Do. There we go. Okay, so
Thanks.
thanks, Kevin. Okay, so I guess this is the discussion that we were having earlier on in Slack about Spark Retrieval and IPNI. So I just want to make sure, and the purpose of this call is just to make sure that we get feedback from the folks who are here. Um, and also, of course, I encourage everybody to go to the issue itself, which is down here, and I'll throw the link into the chat as well. Hold on. So, does anyone have any points or comments that they'd like to make on this particular issue? This may be a very easy discussion if nobody wants to discuss it anymore. MPG, I'm just gonna like throw you on the spot a little bit here.
Somehow I knew that would happen. To be honest, I have not read this issue. I am aware, obviously, of the fact that there are challenges with Spark retrieval rates and IPNI. I think even today I've noticed some drop in the IPNI or Spark retrieval rates, which I don't know what is happening there. I think that this is Spark has been an industry standard for retrieving data or providing retrievability. I think we as a community should be open to building a different, better tooling. There is a very good reason why Spark is has been developed for such a long time, because it's very hard to build good retrievability tooling. I think that there is a world, and I just think about those things. I don't really have much to much to rule or say there, but I think that there is a world in which we should be thinking about building standards for open data preparation so that we can then start building explorers of open data. And in that way, the retrievability as such will not be such an important metric, because if we can all explore and see the open data and use it, then it will naturally be retrievable. So that is something that I hope we can get to and publish that. And I know that, I mean, FIDL has been working with Internet Archive and a few others to understand what would be necessary for such creation, such a standard, and then tooling around using and exploring the open data sets.
So let me give the bigger sort of picture as I see it, and then folks should feel free to jump in if they have a different perception, particularly because I'm still catching up on the many ways in which Field Plus is always improving and changing. So right now, we have retrievability checking through Spark, and part of Spark's idea is it's an independent third party that can check whether data is available. One of the questions is, where is that data? Where is it findable? And Spark uses IPNI for that. And so one of the issues has been, for instance, with DDO, we can't find that data in an easy and obvious way. So there was some effort spent to make Spark work with DDO. The challenge right now with IPNI has been due to sort of partly a gap in funding and partly just because it's not one of the most best looked after parts of the ecosystem, because it's a central or semi-central service that IPNI has been falling behind a little bit on updates for its data. Now that is improving, and IPNI just got a sizable amount of investment as a public good in the last pro PGF round. So we can expect to have some improvement about that in the long term. But in the short term, that is a challenge for a lot of SPs. I can think of a couple of things that we could do, because I don't think anybody pro or anti or neutral disagrees with a lot of this assessment, right? IPNI could do with a little bit more support and love from the wider ecosystem, and there are some challenges right now. One of which is for those SPs who are suffering from this particular problem, we could find other routes, or DataCap recipients, right? We could find other routes to finding that bit of the information, even if it's kind of a hand manual hack on that. We could just say, okay, if you are suffering from it not turning up in IPNI and therefore not turning up in Spark, therefore we can find some other way of finding that data. Now, if there's an extra challenge with Spark, then we should probably break that out. But I think that there's always a possibility of finding a solution, because there are one of two situations that are valid. One is that IPNI, Spark, or something like that isn't getting you the retrievability, isn't able to ascertain the retrievability, in which case we can find some other way of getting the retrievability tested, or the data isn't retrievable in the first place. And in that case, you're not following the rules. So I think there's this, sorry, I've been talking a long time. There is this room in the middle, right, where we go, okay, this isn't working for you. What is a good way of ascertaining the retrievability? So I think I'm going to open it up for feedback, but is that a useful middle way here that we can go a little bit towards the people who are suffering these problems and finding out what alternatives they might have. Is there a,
The
go
the
ahead.
challenge that we've had in the past as a community is around the fact that we we haven't found a good. People tried building alternative tooling for proving retrievability. However, the basic requirement that that tooling should be open source, verifiable, and produce same results every time has never been satisfied. With FIDL, we've introduced this random piece availability, which is slightly different to what Spark does. I think it's good enough for what we are trying to achieve, which is we basically build a script that tries to access random piece CIDs and just verifies that they are accessible and downloadable, which is different to what Spark is doing, obviously, because Spark is doing, you know, who on the world generally can be downloading it. Like independently. This one is a little bit different, but I think it's an interesting way of looking at retrievability. I will say that results are very similar. It's not like now all of a sudden the RPA is significantly better than Spark retrievability. So, you know, it's a question of what we're trying to achieve. But yeah, I'd
Eric,
love to
yeah.
hear from people that have filed those issues, because that's more valuable probably than us to talking.
So we've got a couple of folks. So Eric, I agree with you. I think that that's actually what the IPNI folks are putting a lot of time into right now. The challenge has been getting hold of their time. They're very busy people, and like I say, there was a moment where they were being funded on a sort of month-to-month basis, and now they have some stability here. Um, AD Labs, do you want to, Leo, do you want to talk a little bit about your alternative tooling? And what kind of meeting would you like to discuss that or another third-party tool? Feel free to just type in the chat if you'd rather do that. Yeah, exactly. No, that's fine. Feel free to just type in the chat and I'll read it out in my uh, I'll give you some time. So I don't think that I think that if the challenge is with IPNI, I'm assuming the challenge is being able to find the data, and we might be able to work out alternative ways of providing that information. I think one of the two sort of challenges here with retrievability is making sure that a bad actor can't filter out the retrievability tests from someone else attempting to get the data. So this has to, the public access has to match what Spark or another tool is using. Showed on GitHub. Okay, well, why don't we do that? Like, I think it would genuinely be interesting to throw into this discussion some alternatives. I think that there's a genuine concern here that which is valid, that, you know, IPNI and Spark may be not seeing everything. The question is how to move forward and find either alternatives or to try and fix IPNI and Spark quicker, or find out what the misconnect is. It might not just be, it might not be a problem with them. It might be just a misconnect between the folks looking at their Spark retrievals and going, this isn't what we're seeing. Finding long-term alternatives that people can choose, or a short-term thing where we find kind of a hack where we have a separate database of retrievability rules for SPs that are suffering from this, without getting into the situation where bad actors can give one thing to the retrievability test that isn't actually how people might be able to retrieve that in a more general case. Okay. I'm gonna is there no more discussion on this? If anybody else wants to add something, I'm gonna gently bring this to a close. Thank you for tolerating my it's been a while since I've run a notary meeting, so still catching up. So I'm gonna give one more opportunity for someone to put up their hand or say something about this topic. Going once, going twice. Okay. All right, just a reminder to go into that issue, particularly Leo, present your possible new open source. A link to the code is always useful. I'm going to go away and report back into the Slack discussion that we had this chat, and also sort of kick around some short-term alternatives. As ever, please join the discussions on GitHub or Slack if you have any questions about Phil Plus. And as great, okay, thanks. Which forces. Okay, there's one more thing from Leo, and he's allowed to be a little late. In addition, regarding the smart contract method discussed in our Slack thread, which forces DDO funding of testing. So where can I get support for DDO error reporting issues? I would throw it into that Slack thread actually right now. I think that this is just beginning to be kind of picked together. As MPG said earlier, the FIDL team is working to see if we can get DDO, non-DDO support for the smart contract. But if there are issues with...
I mean, I would be very interested to have a short conversation about that. And because I was looking at the numbers and reviewing part of why FIDL felt like this was, or FIDL could report to the governance team that this is something that we can easily just put a turn on for everyone, was because in all of the reports that we are looking at, most, like gross majority of the deals are DDO deals. And so it felt like it's a very minor change to very, very few people. And I would love to know and understand who are we solving for, and if it's really, I don't want to neglect ever any single person, but if we are trying to solve for, one or two people and putting quite serious engineering effort into making sure that this is possible, then let's make sure that we are solving for people who are truly onboarding a lot of very, very important data that is truly used. So that would be my 2 cents from that perspective. There is a way to do it. With the engineering team, we found a good way to do smart contract allocation using using direct market deals or state market deals. The last part of that, and the question that is still outstanding for me, is with moving to Curio Market from Boost. Like, in order to benefit from a lot of the work that is happening in NV27, all of the SPs will have to move to Curio Markets. And in order to receive the PDP rewards, they will need to move to NV27, and so to Curio Market. And in order to significantly reduce the cost of operations, they will need to move to NV27. And so I am wondering, and I don't have a good answer here, whether with Curio Market, state market deals will be supported, or whether it's going to be only DDO. But that's something that like is still an outstanding question for me. What's whether us putting effort into doing the direct market or state market deal support in smart contracts is the right way to go, because in 2 or 3 weeks' time, we're going to be living in a world where it makes zero sense to support state market deals anyway. But I've been consulting the Curio team and have that as an open question for them.
So let me sort of read back what you're saying. So MV27 is the next version of the network. You're saying that folks would have to move to Curio's market feature?
I believe that, yes, you do need to use Curio Market to benefit from what NV27 offers.
And Curio Market doesn't support the previous state market system. So
this is an open question for me.
okay.
I don't know. I'm not saying yes or no. I don't want to spread any FUD. It's the things that when we talk about developing or supporting state market deals with smart contract data cap allocation, these are the things that we are concerned with. Like, how many people are we trying to support here? How many SPs? What happens in NV27? What happens with Curio market and versus not Curio market?
Yeah. So again, I want to highlight to everyone else that you are exploring this, and no one here is officially saying that this is the case. It's just one of those sort of open questions. And I think the main open question you're talking about here is like, how much non-DDO activity is there in the Phil Plus?
Yes.
Kind of environment. Where do you, where does FIDL, and you may not know this, Will may know this, where are you sort of getting your source of truth for these proportions of deals?
So source of truth for what I mentioned in the datacapstats.io, we have a flag for whether it's a DDO deal or not. Can I share my screen with
Probably
you?
can
Oh,
actually.
yes.
There
Okay,
we go.
so go to clients.
Go to clients.
Yep. And click on, I don't know, Starling Lab or whichever of them, but
Yeah,
yes.
there you go.
Yeah. And you can see third column, it says is DDO.
Okay.
And we've been looking at it through like most of the big clients. It all seems to be DDO deals. So that's where we also felt.
And pardon me for not knowing this, but with the sort of process with smart contracts, now that's you're trying to move to doing it pretty much data cap allocation pretty much exclusively through smart contracts.
So, as always, FIDL doesn't try to do anything because we don't have any power in making decisions here. But in certain conversations and understanding of the challenges that the Phil Plus governance team is facing and the challenges that allocators are facing, we realized that doing direct data cap allocation to clients by an allocator is very prone to fault. So clients change, disappear. They wanted to upload data, they don't. And then an allocator is like left with all of this data cap kind of held up in a client that is unresponsive. That, clients, so there were a lot of issues with like not being able to manage data cap once it was allocated to the client. So the answer to that problem was, well, let's use a smart contract so that we make an allocation on the smart contract for an allocator makes an allocation or an allowance for a client, and the client specify which SPs they are working with, and the SPs can claim data cap in an easy way without basically client almost like client never touches the DataCap, or the DataCap never touches the client's wallet, which is very convenient in all sorts of ways. Also because clients don't necessarily want to deal with all of those things, right? They want to just store their data with a storage provider. And that's why we introduced the smart contract. And there was an understanding that in order to do that, clients or storage providers would need to use Boost, and that implied using DDO. But as it turns out, and thanks to the community feedback and concern, we've looked at it further, and it now turns out that there is a way to do it with state market deals as well as DDO deals.
Mm. Do you know what that is? I mean, just in simple terms?
What is it exactly? It's been described in the various Slack channels. I can just quickly rehash it. Um, uh, duh, duh, duh. Yeah, so basically, the thing that we would need to do is create a different signing of the deal on the client side, or being able to register the deal within the contract itself, rather than saying, I'm just going to be using those SPs, but not having the full deal registered in the contract. Which means then a fairly severe work around understanding how do clients create deal signatures, and SPs are publishing those deals. Like that whole flow, we'll need to work with clients and SPs to understand it, to then build custom tooling for them to be able to do it.
Okay, so I think that the important thing here is to try and get those folks who aren't moving to DDO super quickly, or have some other flow that does involve Phil Plus, to kind of speak up and be heard. Right. Okay. And what is the timeline for all this? Because I know that a bunch of people, I'm sorry for putting you on the spotlight here. It's mostly me being curious, right? So a lot of people are like, oh my God, this is going to happen really soon. Is it going to happen soon? Is there a
Yes.
deadline?
So it was supposed to happen last week.
That is soon.
But we've talked about it, and the governance team has announced it almost a year ago first. So it was a very gentle introduction where first it was introduced as an option. Then there was this was the default option with a timeline on when it becomes the go-to option. Then it was moved to a state after that deadline passed where it was the go-to option, and an allocator could manually choose and provide reason for why they are not using it, with again a time countdown that said this will be turned on in at some point. And now we wanted to move to purely that. Also because the reasons that the allocators were giving were not very, like, it was not my SP does not support, or this SP does not support DDO deals. It was, it's easier, for instance, or not enough time or something. So there weren't like, good kind of reasons that we understood as like, okay, people don't want to alter their workflows, but it isn't like a serious issue here. And the benefit from the Gov team perspective was outweighing the that cost.
Well, presumably it's not going to happen last week. So there is time to get people's input on this. As someone who is now part of the governance team, I'm always, well, kind of, I'm always interested in getting people's input onto these things, and to make sure that we don't leave anybody behind. And so I said earlier on that people should add to the Slack thread in Phil Plus. Is there does anybody know? I'm not going to point to you, MPG. Is there also an issue discussing this, or maybe I could start one if there isn't.
I am not sure if there is an issue or not. I'm very open to having a conversation, obviously, always. I think that the feedback has been consistent from a small group of people saying we would not want to move to DDO deals because it requires changes for SPs that are costly, and those SPs do not want to move to DDO or like don't want to incur that expense. So I'm not sure that there is more to be discussed there. It's an argument, it's a valid argument. The
It
only thing
is.
that is outstanding from our perspective is how much DataCap is being onboarded through those SPs that do not want to move to DDO deals.
Okay. So I guess one of the action items I might have is to at least check the Slack discussion and see if it's going to be easier for people to speak up if we move it to GitHub. There's always like much of a muchness between a sprawling Slack channel and a GitHub issue,
sure.
and both of them is kind of the worst scenario, I guess. But anyway, if you are interested or concerned about this, please have your say in those two areas, and then we'll continue looking into it and discussing the pros and cons. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you again for bearing with me. Thanks to Galen for all that he did in the past, and I hope we'll endeavor to keep up to his high standards as we go forward. All right, speak to you all soon, and see you on the internet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice one.
You too. Bye.
All right. Zhang, I think you kicked something off with avatars on the call, so I'll resist the temptation to turn into a panda or a cute kitty with you, and I'll just stay friendly dad. All right, hey, welcome guys to the second call taking place here on September 2nd. We actually have a lot of proposals, and that's pretty much what the topic that we wanted to share back with the community, as well as make sure we're picking up anything that's on your minds that you wanted to flag. So high level on the agenda, we have 7 points. First is Galen rolled off the team, just letting you know who to reach out to and how to get support with his absence. The second is there was a proposal flagged about a month ago. Just wanted to make sure everyone was tracking it for input. And there were 2 new proposals that went through. So just flagging these for your input, sharing, and getting any feedback you may have. And then there was some community issues about how we're doing the off-ramps and the kind of input from the team. So we'll talk about all those on the call, provided anything else you want to do. So flying through it, you guys know about the agenda if you're on the call. This is September 2nd. Next call is on the 16th. And as far as data, we saw 54 petabytes go out across 28 clients. So lots of distributions, looking great. All right, hey, so you might have seen in Slack, Galen's last day with the foundation is Friday. He's switching to more other roles within the organization and within the community, so he will not be a part of Phil Plus going forward. If you were tagging Galen for anything, just feel free to tag me in. If I don't know what the answer is, I'll find someone who does. So I have some links here in this slide. If you're new to the program, these are helpful places to go. I just took these from the GitHub repositories, both in governance and registry. So if you're ever curious, we have all these resources set up. Please feel free to tap them and we'll get you whatever you need. If you're curious about what the structure is post Galen, we are not backfilling his role at this time for like a dedicated leader for the Filecoin Plus program. Michael, on the other hand, he's a foundation guy. He runs our governance work across the whole ecosystem. He's going to step up, and his spike is making sure that the governance process works, not just across Phil Plus, but across all of the FIPS and proposals. So big value add, looking forward to his input on how we can make sure that everyone's voice is heard. So if you see Michael in comms, that's where it's coming from. You know me by now. And then Amin, he is our contractor who works on the audit and compliance for DataCap refresh and onboarding. Danny, who you might have seen on past calls in Slack, he's more of an advisor role, helping us kind of keep everything on par and on track, and helps with comms, helps with vision, helps with OKRs, Happy to have his time. And same thing with Megan, kind of looking at how the program functions overall, providing that guidance input. As always, if you don't know where to go, I'm happy to plug you in and make sure that the right people have it. And then we also wanted to make sure that folks were tracking. I see some tags to FIDL that go off. FIDL's led by MPG Marta. And what they do is a lot of the tooling for the resources. So they built the apply.allocator.tech. They built a lot of the tooling that we use. Great team, really responsive. They're fabulous to tag in for technical questions, tooling questions. And what's nice is they're based in Europe. So sometimes when I'm fast asleep, they're a great resource if you need something immediately for a question. So Will and John lead the engineering component, and Damien works kind of in a similar role, slash developer, slash helping out with input that goes across. So two really responsive teams. Let us know if you need anything, and we'll get back to you. All right. Hey, the proposals that you might have seen, there's 3 of them. We talked about this on the last time. Just a second call. If you're a public open data set allocator, just a heads up, we're going to kind of look at how the benefit to the network looks, and having dozens of copies of the same data set just isn't it. So we kick this proposal off. We're still looking for feedback before we push it into guidance, but we're trying to cap the amount of DataCap that will be distributed to the application for the same data set more than 8 times. So if this has any input to you, if you think that number is too low, too high, love to hear about it, issue 431. The second is if you're running a automated pathway or a market-based pathway, it's going to get a lot smoother. What this proposal does is it takes the data cap from the root key holder and it puts it in this MetaAllocator. Then that MetaAllocator can distribute it in like bite-sized chunks that go out. This eliminates the roadblock of having to constantly go back to a root key holder for automated and market-based pathways. That's a slowdown. Sometimes it's 3 days, sometimes it's as long as 10 days. So that's in the past. This streamlines all of the pathways. They're all on this kind of MetaAllocator model. And again, the goal is making sure that the data cap and the network is growing without any of these human roadblocks that might be in the way. So faster approvals, business continuity, and easier accounting. Again, thoughts, love to hear them, issue 435. The second one that you might see in there that I just want to make you aware of, actually the third, apologies, it's an on-ramp for MetaAllocators. What these are special pathway, separate from everything else, for enterprise teams that are running paid Filecoin deals. So Galen kicked this off back in June. We just built off of it with like, what is the eligibility? What are the rules? How do you even apply? Lots of detail with this. Again, this is just for very trusted teams that have a history of demonstrated paid deals, and they're looking for faster data cap to really onboard. Really strict on the eligibility for this one because it's just straight access for paid enterprise deals. Not a lot of teams are going to fall into that category, but if you are, this is the pathway that we're rolling out. If you have thoughts, issues 434. And last, hey, congratulations. So Kenneth, a few of you guys on the call, you might have seen that your organization has been onboarded. You might have seen that data cap come through already. So we went through and we finalized all of those last Friday. There's just a handful still open. So I'll be sending DMs. You might have already seen them. I don't think anyone's on the call that falls in this bucket, but we were missing just some final information for these. But everybody else, you should see that approved. I don't think there was any rejections in the last one because these are the folks that had been rejected, got feedback, updated applications. So looking forward to great things. Welcome. Let's get things done. But just, hey, friendly reminder. I took this from a post that Damien put in the Phil Plus channel. Thought it was so good that I just wanted to double tap it. If you're an allocator, either returning or new, please be mindful of what we're looking for in the program. You should have a README file with how your pathway works and how diligence takes place. Cap those replicas to 8. Anything more than 8, get with your clients and let them know that that's not going to be acceptable. It's on you as the allocator to take that step. Provide detailed information on how your CIDs are being tracked and making sure that that's reproducible. Follow your tranche schedule, just like you lined out. Make sure that it's stored in 2 geographic regions. And if you're not using your data cap, we might sunset it for you and have you reapply just to make sure that the program's running. But if there was one thing on, it's that don't wait until the refresh time before you file anything. And refresh. Hey, these are all going out too. So with these new pathways, we don't slow it down by the root key holder. We had a goal of 2 weeks. Pretty optimistic that coming up here in Q4, we're going to blow that out of the water. So we're kind of pushing for less. If we can get that down to a week, by the time you turn it in, get any feedback, and go forward. So if you're on this list, I pulled this from apply.dashboard. You'll see that updated. You'll also see the governance repo and the DataCap is going out. So thanks for your patience. Thanks for putting up with a lot of the growing as we started onboarding a lot more allocators, but we should start to see that investment pay off. And then just a quick note on how we're looking at the DataCap refresh. In the past rounds, a lot of time was taken up, 80%, on just a handful of organizations that had issues, whether it was changing their pathway, changing their bookkeeping, changing their Slack, changing their GitHub, having some kind of issues with their multi-sig again and again and again. We're kind of saying at this point, if we're doing these DataCap refresh and the distributions aren't with what was said in the application, the throttling is much more strict. So it won't be throttle, 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 remove. It will be just remove unless there's extenuating circumstances that's outside of your control. But all allocators are expected to follow what they put in their applications. If not, we encourage them to send any clients to another pathway to work forward. So please just be mindful of how we're looking at this program, because throttles will be far less and just sunsetting those pathways will be the norm going forward. And with that, the last thing I wanted to put on, if you didn't see it already, Fort Neo from CoinSummer, they filed this issue, and this was talking about how we're looking at IPNI, Spark, retrievals, and how it's going forward. So I was only on the partial for the morning call, so if they were joining, I don't have any input they have. Please see the YouTube video if they had any notes going forward. But it's pretty much just saying, look, as we start to look at the future of this, how are we doing retrievals in a lightweight way for allocators to verify this, for storage providers to make sure they're in compliance, and the whole ecosystem kind of looking at this. So if you have thoughts on retrieval, if you have thoughts on if this process works, whether it's in Slack, this is a great issue to check out. Let your voice be heard. It's issue 427. Love to get any input. And big thank you to Fort Neo and CoinSummer for kicking this off. We're looking forward for you guys kind of like taking a step back, kind of setting up your organization, and looking forward to having you back in the future one day. So with that, that's all the updates I had for you, rapid fire, but I'm just going to stop the slides and see if there's anything I can troubleshoot, get, or run down for you guys while I'm here.
Hi, Kevin. Can the link to the slide deck be public? I don't have access to the slide deck.
That is my fault. Let me fix that now. Apologies. I write it in a private, just so if I have typos and I put it in shared drive, it looks like I shared my private one with you. So let me grab that now.
Alex asked, what is the MDMA approval stand for?
Can you type that? TNT approval. It's cutting out, so I just want to make sure I heard that. MDA approval. Alex, let me show you what that is.
I still need access to view the file. Okay. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Alex, let me grab that slide that talks about that for you. Give me just 1 minute. This is what I think you're looking at here. So you're probably looking at the dashboard where it says AMA approval and MDAMA approval. So what we've done, because we've set up these MetaAllocator pathways, is that once we're onboarding an application, like Alex, I'm pretty sure yours is an open data pathway that's coming on board. This is what that application is, that MDMA. It stands for Manual Diligence MetaAllocator. And so what we're doing right now is we're waiting for that MetaDiligence MetaAllocator POC to just sign it. So rather than having to wait for the root key holders to sign it, they sign it and you're good to go. And same thing for the ADA. So some of these are going to be listed here as like an AMA approval. So that pathway will come down on a different way that we go through. So when you're waiting for those, it's just on the back end. So we have different signers for audit, for accountability to go through to keep it dispersed. And we're just waiting for those signatures. And once that hits, you'll see your DataCap plan. But hey, just foot stomp since I got you guys. Please, 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 please make sure that you have a README file set up. We posted that in Slack. We put on the last 2 calls. I think what might happen, probably pretty rare, let me start that again. What I think is going to happen with a high degree of certainty is that pathways that don't have that README file set up, that begin making distributions, might see their DataCap frozen or stalled and their pathway put on hold. So just consider this a very friendly plug. If you haven't made your README file that talks about how your pathway runs, essentially the information that you put in your application that's not private, please do that after this call. That'll be something that slows you down, if not blocks you outright.
Okay, I'll work on that after this call.
And hey, while we're just talking, are you guys tracking Buenos Aires in November? I know it's probably a very long flight, but FDS 7 is taking place in Buenos Aires in like the 2nd or 3rd week of November. I'm looking it up here and I'll put it here. Show you. I think we're tagging this with a couple different summits that are happening at the same time. Like Ethereum's having a big event out there. So developers, builders, community, there's going to be in-person sessions, virtual sessions, and we'll share those links if you can't make it. A lot of folks, I know that I'm going to be there from the foundation. Looks like it's a beautiful location. So if this wasn't on your radar already, there's going to be virtual sessions if you want to save yourself a very long plane ride, but this is going to be kicking off in November.
Nice.
So hard to talk to you like this. I might just turn off my camera here in a moment. I can't tell if you're opening your mouth wide or if that's just your avatar right now. Yep, you're opening your mouth wide. All right, all right. We're all business professionals here with pandas on our face. Love it. All right, Alex, I saw your question in chat. Ken, it sounds like I got you squared away. Zing, my spine kitty friend, is there anything you need from me or any questions for the program that I can get for you? All right, gents. Thanks for your time as always. If you need anything from me, please let me know. I'll put this video on YouTube and looking forward to great things. Thanks for all you do, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.